Welcome to the 19th episode of the Perfectly Imperfect Spiritual Podcast. My today's guest, Megan Couri, is a master Reiki practitioner and developing medium. We met through Pat Longo. Megan believes looking through a different lens can change your life, energy, and mindset. Welcome, Megan.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here, and I'm looking forward to our conversation. I love hearing other people's life stories, especially the ones to do with their spiritual awakenings, as it can hopefully help someone who might be questioning their sanity at this particular moment. So would you be happy to talk a little bit about your spiritual gifts and your spiritual awakening, and actually whether you could maybe talk a little bit, what is a spiritual awakening?
Okay. Okay. So my spiritual gifts are unfolding, but I think that it's part mediumship, part Reiki. I do like to work with energy and help people heal in that way. I think spiritual gifts are also things that come outside of you that light other people up, because we have this spark inside of us that helps spark something else inside of someone as well. And so part of my gift, I think, going back to childhood, and we ask, what are our spiritual gifts? We look at what are the things that we loved as kids? What did we get complimented on? What do we get complimented on today? And I've always had this positive aspect, this positive lens that people would be talking to me and I'd be able to kind of spin it a different way and say, why don't you look at it this way? And then they would come out and feel better about the situation. Because we get stuck in a rut and we think that there's no way out, you're stuck in a hole. But then if you change your lens and you change the way that you look at things, then your mind expands and there's expansion. And you can think of things and come up with solutions in different ways. Or no, you know what, this is a really tough situation that I'm in, but it's temporary. This is not my whole life. I know that my life is going to get better. So I think that was part of my spiritual gift. As far as, and I can go back, I'll go back to that in a little bit, but sure. As far as my unfolding and really understanding a deeper sense of who I was, I would say that I had an awakening probably about a year and a half ago. I started questioning things in my life, like, what is the purpose of my job? Do I feel fulfilled? I started looking for things and I came upon Reiki. So I did my Reiki training once, and then I did it again online with a different teacher. And when I was doing my Reiki training, I was taught to do this meditation. And so I was constantly opening and opening and opening. And I just felt something I had never felt before. I felt this pure joy, bliss, just love for everyone, like everything and everyone. And I felt it coming from my crown chakra into my body. And I felt this like pulsing through my body. And it kind of scared me a little bit, but I want everyone to know that an spiritual awakening can happen in many different ways. So just because this happens to me doesn't mean yours is going to look like this. But I can just share my story in case something like this happens, to know that you are not going crazy and that this does happen. At the time, I didn't know what was happening. I didn't feel like I had anyone to talk to about it. I luckily have a great husband, so I was able to kind of talk to him about what was going on. But yeah, I was feeling this pulsing all the time. And then I was just opening and opening and opening, and life is great. And I was also a person that was a people pleaser. So I had no boundaries. So I was opening all the time and I had no boundaries. So all of a sudden I had all these crazy spiritual experiences in a short amount of time that left me anxious to go to bed at night. It made me feel like question my sanity, and I'll go into some of those stories. The first thing that happened was I woke up in the morning and I felt a poke on my chest, and I looked around, no one was there. Okay, maybe it was something I'm just imagining it. I went back to bed, and then I felt another poke on my arm. I'm like, okay, what is going on? Nothing's still around me. And then I felt another poke
Mm-hmm.
and then it went away, and I just kind of dismissed it. Like, I don't know what that was, but I'm not acknowledging it. And then another morning I woke up. So I think when we wake up in the morning, we're in that, I don't know if it's an alpha state or alpha theta state, whatever it is where you're coming from a dream state and you're waking up. And I find that from research that I've done that people who connect to spirit, that is the time you actually put yourself in that wavelength. And so I think when I was waking up, I was in that wavelength where I could be conscious and then also have this connection to spirit. And then I was waking up, and I would also feel like my hair move. That was something that I kind of dismissed, but then things just kept happening, and with more intensity. I would dream, and I wasn't thinking about the person, but my deceased loved ones would come through in my dreams. And it would be like my grandmother, my two cousins, my grandfathers that I never met. And all of these messages and things that I didn't know would come through. And I would talk to my mom and my dad and say, I had this really weird dream, and they said X, Y, and Z. And my mom or dad would be like, yeah, that's true. How did you know that? So that happened. And then things started happening in the real time, real life. Like, I would go to weird things would happen. Like, I would go to a store, I would be at the cash register, and this one woman was helping me. All of a sudden her phone rang, and she looked at her phone and she gasped. And I said, are you okay? And she said, I'm fine, but my phone just rang. It was my mom. And I just kind of said, okay. She's like, my mom has been passed for 6 years, and I've never had that happen. So things like that would happen around me. And then I went to a dinner party with my mother and father-in-law, who were very straight-laced, and this other couple. And all of a sudden I was feeling this tingling in my crown chakra. And when I know spirit's around, I'll feel it here, or I'll feel a vibration in the air. And I all of a sudden had this thought, this repeating thought. I was thinking something else, but then it wasn't a voice that I was hearing, but it was just like, I can't describe it. It's not even my own voice, but it was just a thought that was repeating itself over and over 3 times. Nana, Nana, Nana. And I was like, who is Nana? What does that mean? And I just intuitively knew, which is called claircognizant, that it was connected to the woman who was having the party. So I wasn't about to go and talk to her about what was happening, but I went over to her and I just kind of fished a little bit and said, does your mom and dad live around this area? And she said, yes, they do. I'm lucky that they're still alive. They had me when I was young. I said, oh, okay. It was your mom. Do they call your mom Nana? And she said, yes. So then I just thought, that's kind of strange that I'm getting this thought and there's a connection here. But I kept feeling this presence around me. Ignored it. We left, went in the car. I felt the presence in the car. Like, I felt like it was behind me in the car, behind Chris, where he was driving. And I didn't see anything, but I just still felt it there. And then I went to bed. And when I was about to fall asleep, going into that state, I felt the presence again. And it was like a vibration in the air. And I said, okay, I'll hear what you have to say. What do you have to say? And then all of a sudden, this is the first time this happened. It was a series of flashes in my head of images. And I was shown a woman, like, leaning over another woman, taking care of somebody that was sick. And then there were a couple other things. It was done. I went back to the woman that hosted the party the next day, because my daughter sells our farm eggs. And I was brought over, and I said in my head, okay, well, if she's open to it and I'm feeling like a good conversation, I'll bring it up. So I brought it up, And she verified and said, that's my mother-in-law. We used to call her Nana. She was not a nice person. She was not nice to my mother. And so that's why, that's who it was. And I said, well, I felt like what she was doing was she was thanking you for, or thanking your mom for taking care of her. Did she take care of her when she was sick? And she said, yes. So that was like the first time that I had something like that. It was very strange. And then another thing that happened to me, and this had only happened 2 times, it had not happened again, but I was in a spa getting a treatment done, and I was nice in a relaxed state, and the technician came over, and her heart chakra was right by my head. So I must have picked up something, but all of a sudden in my head, I had that thought again. It was not something, not a voice. It wasn't my own. It was something that was dropped in, and it was disheartened, wanted to be engaged. It was very personal. I thought, that's none of my business. And so I went on, and then the next time I saw her, I said again, like, if it's appropriate, I'm going to bring it up because I feel like it's a message. And so I did, and she verified the message. So I feel like God comes in, or spirit comes in, to give these messages of either I'm sorry, or open your heart. Don't let this discourage you. You are meant for more. So but it can be a very scary experience for somebody that is going through it and doesn't have a mentor and doesn't have anyone to talk to. So I was so thankful to be able to go to Pat Longo's and find her. I just kind of stumbled upon her, and then I went to her group, and that's where we met. So that was kind of the unfoldment, and there were a bunch of other stories that happened, but that's basically like the gist of how I had opened. And all of that has stopped. I have not had any bombardment of with spirit and being out in public anymore. Because in life, I have said no. I have created boundaries. And when you create boundaries in life, or you change in your physical world, then I feel like the spirit world also reflects that. And when I say no, it means no, I'm sleeping, or I'm not open. So the only time that I am connected to spirit and getting messages is when I'm doing practice sessions with people.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. And did you know from the beginning, did you have that inner knowing from the beginning that it was the spirit world communicating with you, or did you need to receive more guidance and signs from the spirit world? I feel that can help some people who are maybe going through their own awakenings, and maybe they are not Reiki masters, or they haven't done anything to do with the spirit world. So I'm curious about that.
I think it's only human to really want validation. So of course I kept asking for validation, or sloughing it off that it was nothing. So I would just give advice that you're not alone, and you're not going crazy when you are going through this. Is a very, very normal thing to happen. And sometimes it doesn't mean that you have to go and be a medium, or you have to go and do whatever your spiritual gift is, but it just means that it's there for you to be able to help other people if you so choose to, but you always have your free will. And I'm just in the phase right now of exploring it.
Beautiful.
Yes.
And coming back to your positivity, we have to talk about it, because you're that ray of sunshine spreading positivity with your energy and with your content on Instagram. And I know it is not that false positivity we've talked about. This just comes from within. I truly believe that being happy and optimistic is a choice. So I'm wondering, would you be able to talk a little bit, how can you focus on the positivity, amid any struggles that people can go through? How can you put that lens on? How can you change the way you perceive your life?
Yeah, great questions. So I would say that if you have a mindset of a victim mentality, then everything is going to look dark and gray. Oh, and you're might be attracting that energy in. Oh, why did I get an extra bill for the water or whatever? Um, why did I get a flat tire this morning? Why did I get pulled over? Only bad things happen to me. I know somebody that says that all the time, and it is so frustrating.
Mhm.
Hear them say that because they need to change their mindset. I do believe that you attract some of the things in when you have that mindset, but you give your power away too. You don't understand we don't understand how powerful we are. We could make one choice and it changed the whole trajectory of our whole life. We just have to look at things a different way. I thought that I had to do things a certain way, earn money a certain way, and then if you just change your mind and you say, oh, I can maybe diversify, I can do this and I can do this. Certainly not advocating for anyone to quit their job, but
Mhm.
that's just an example of how you can change your mindset. Or I'm stuck in this relationship and I feel like I have to stay. Maybe you don't. Maybe you can think about how you could change your life or make that relationship better. What is it about? But really where it comes from is the inside. You really have to start asking questions about yourself. Why did I do that? Why did I get triggered so much? Why am I so angry at this person?
Mhm.
Because they hurt my feelings. What did they say? And you can trace it back to maybe something that happened in childhood that really is unresolved that you have to fix. So for me, like in a very personal way, when I was growing up in a certain time period, I didn't have a lot of friends.
Mhm.
So when I was like, because I was depressed, I was sad, I was in a very bad place and had cyclical thoughts. And so when you're in this energy of instability, you don't attract people to you. And so some of those beliefs I realized have carried over into adulthood. I noticed that when I am meeting people, it's hard for me to initiate having them come to my house or hang out or go
Mhm.
out and do things. Like it's very hard for me because I feel like I'm putting myself out there, especially if it's somebody new. That is really, really hard for me. So I would encourage everyone to kind of ask those questions about themselves, and then you're and what's true and what's not true. Um, and just kind of move from there. Because if you just have one little change and you're like, oh, I believe that because of that
Mhm.
experience, then I just need to change my mind. Every time I have that thought of, I don't want to ask that person to go hang out with me, or I don't want to go and put myself out there. Oh, that's related to something that's not true. I'm going to do it anyway. And you have to push through the fear, because when you push through the fear, you grow. Your fear keeps you stable. It keeps you in this one place. But once you push through it and you just put yourself out there, then so many other things come to you.
Mhm. That's beautiful. And you've touched on something very important. As human beings, we experience heavier emotions. So how can we navigate through them and not allow them to take over us? Like
Yeah.
what are the tips or anything that you could share with
I,
the
I can tell you what it's all about. Self-exploration. I can tell you what works for me.
Mhm.
Is that, and again, like questioning what is true and what's not true, cognitively, and then knowing what grounds you. Okay, if your energy is all up here, this is going back to Reiki too. If you're feeling anxious, that means your energy is all not grounded and it's
Mhm.
all up here. How do you ground yourself? I like to pretend or imagine a white light coming from my tailbone and my feet into the earth. So I am grounded. I imagine feeling the earth under my feet. I also love walking. Walking is a super grounding activity for me. So if I am super anxious about something, you'll see me walking on Main Street
Mhm.
2 or 3 times a day. And making sure that whatever activity you're doing to calm you is helpful. and it's not harming yourself. Like you don't want to go to overeat or drink or anything like that. But the heavy emotions, know also too, do a little check and know that this is only temporary. My grandmother used to always say, you can stand something for an hour. There's nothing you can't stand for an hour. Time is timeless on the other side, right? So if you're stuck in a rut and you feel like it's years, no, it's only temporary and you can get through it. You just have to know and believe that on the other side of this, you're going to be a better person. You're going to understand yourself better. And that's the lens that you need to have, is that positive mindset, that love for yourself in your heart, to know that you're going to persevere to get through whatever you have going on.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. And you've just mentioned a little bit about the importance of grounding ourselves. So you've shared with the viewers and listeners like one way of how they could do it. Are there any other simple ways that people can do to ground themselves? And maybe you could also mention, why is it important to ground ourselves?
Yeah. Also, it's important to ground ourselves too, because I'm an empath, like most people who are in the spiritual community, but it means that you are don't have great boundaries with other people and their feelings, or you might feel something that someone else is feeling because you just feel so horrible for them and you want to dig in the hole with them and be with them and you feel their emotions. You need to stop that and feel for them, but not feel with them, because then that takes on a physical part of your body. So grounding can help you shield that when you're around other people. Like when I was on a plane ride for 11 hours, I forgot to shield myself. And when I came off the plane, I felt disgusting. I just felt, and I think when you start opening up more, you're more sensitive, like you're picking up different energies. So grounding helps you do that. Another way to ground besides the meditation would be taking an Epsom salt bath. The salt in the bath helps to take out any impurities in your body, but also helps ground you. I would say anything that you are, the grounding mats. There's grounding mats that you can get from earthing. You plug them in the wall. It's so great, especially in like our types of regions where we have a winter and you're inside. You plug it into the wall, put your feet on the mat, and it helps ground you. So those are really like some of my suggestions. I'm sure there's a bunch out there, but that's just something that has helped me. And one other thing that I did want to bring up was around spiritual awakening. Look at like, what were you good at when you were a child, or when were you, and I think I did talk about this, but and what do you get compliments now on when you are an adult? And I've always been complimented with being positive. And seeing it in a different lens. And I didn't see that as a gift, because in high school or in life, like you're rewarded for being an athlete, for being extrovert, for being getting good grades. And I felt so lost because I didn't fit any of that. I did not. And so, but I always kind of had that positive mindset and belief that things would get better. And now in this frame, in this time of my life, I do feel like it's a gift. It is a spiritual gift, because I can talk to a friend and help lift them up. In my profession, I'm pediatric OT. I'm always talking to parents. I'm kind of counseling them, helping them with what they're going through. So whatever you have, or you think you're being complimented on, you think that it's not worth it. That is not true. You have a gift and a purpose, and your purpose is to help give your light and your gift to everyone in the world. It just might not be the right time for you.
And this is so important, and I feel that can be useful for some of the viewers and listeners who are still trying to find their own life purpose or discover their gifts. So really tracing back and going back to your own childhood, I feel like it's such a useful and very important tip. So thank you for sharing.
I'll just say one more thing
Yes.
too. I'm sorry, Marta.
No, no.
So going back to childhood too, I didn't realize that when I was a child, I never wanted to, now I can connect the dots. When I was young, I never liked sleeping in my room alone. I never wanted to be alone in my room. I always felt like there were people in my room, that somebody was sitting on the bed. And then when I would daydream, I would have like a face pop into my daydream. So again, at that time, I didn't understand it. And I thought it was that something was wrong with me. But now at this time in my life, I understand that that was a gift and I didn't have the access to it. And again, the timing is all about when you're ready to be able to explore what your spiritual gifts are.
And I'm sure you've got now the right boundaries in place, and that those things don't happen to you as often. Of course, we are being tested continuously by the spirit world, but for anyone who might be going through some things that they might not be comfortable with, know that with the right techniques and methods, and just speaking, communicating with the spirit world, those things can stop, and you're actually in control. It is like setting boundaries with people here on Earth, equally as important. For those people, well, we talked a little bit about the importance of grounding ourselves, and I know like becoming aware of what drains us is crucial here, but for those people who are still learning and exploring, well, what are the external things that can disturb our energies, making us feel drained? Yes, if you can mention a little bit about that, because then people might.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, people will be able maybe then to become more aware. Oh, actually, I have not realized that that can actually contribute to me feeling drained or my energy being impacted or changed. So I'm curious about your view.
I think the number one thing is when you're not true to yourself. When you are not true to yourself, you are damaging yourself and you're draining your own energy. When you're trying to hide behind people or hide who you are, then you're draining your own energy. And it's a injustice to yourself and the world, because if there's people you're afraid of people not liking you, then that's on them. That's okay. Not everyone's going to like you, but there's probably more people that will. So I would say that would be number one. Number two would be being around a lot of negative people, or negative people that are have a very low energy, and sometimes we can't help but be around them because maybe they're family members. So I would say take dosage of it. Maybe if you know that you're going to be around this person and they have a heavier energy, okay, like you're doing this out of love, like I love you as a person, I'm going to spend time with you, but have an excuse, have a reason why you have to go, and only spend a certain amount of time with them, because it is a drain. And before you are around that person, I listen to a lot of I have upbeat mixes, so many of them. I listen to it before I go and hang out with that person, and I also make sure I visualize a boundary, an energetic boundary around them. I would say those would be the top two. And then also to being mindful of like what you're doing during the day. I don't listen to the news anymore on TV, just because the type of person I am, I feel everything. So when I see something, it just brings my energy down. And the news is all about negative things. That doesn't mean that I bury my head in the sand. I just choose to read and consume my content in a different way. I can edit it better when it's online and I'm reading it versus seeing it, hearing it, and then being bombarded one thing after another on the news.
I do the same. It really, really helps.
It's a good strategy.
It is indeed. And it's a choice. And then you can still be informed, but in a different way and form. So it seems to be that you've got a very good spiritual practice in place. So what are the other things that you do daily to protect yourself, to nourish yourself, to really feel grounded and be ready for the day?
Yeah, my husband and I go to the gym. I would like to say 5 days a week, but it's not. And that I feel like for us, like finding your physical form of what helps kind of ground you, the physical activity of weightlifting or walking or whatever you do helps you be a little bit more in your body and more grounded. I would say I also in the morning, as soon as I wake up, I have a practice of gratitude. So, excuse me, I'll say maybe the things that I'm thankful for, or I take that time where I'm just waking up and I take a deep breath and I try and connect to spirit, and I'll just say, what, please, help me through the lessons that I need to learn today, guide me, and I'll say my little prayers. I do feel like prayer or intention is really, really important in your day. And when you're having an action and you're helping someone out, or you're whatever you choose to do, think about why you're doing it. What is the intention behind this? Am I doing it because I genuinely want to help that person? Or am I doing it because I'm trying to get a pat on the back, or I'm trying to get put money in the piggy bank so that they can pay me back another time?
Mm-hmm.
Really having a true intention of being true to your intentions.
Mm-hmm. So important. And you've mentioned about the importance of gratitude. And then I've just had a thought that this is how we can also navigate through our own life experiences if we treat it as life lessons. So I'm wondering, what's your view on that, and how can we ensure that we actually perceive anything that happens to us as something that happens maybe for us?
Exactly. So that's the famous saying of we're spiritual beings having a human experience, right? And so what is a negative experience may have been created for us, so that, or navigated for us so that we can grow. And we're not going to grow if life is great and all the time, or if it's stable all the time. We go through life, we're going to have deaths, we're going to hurt emotionally, we're going to have all of these things. But I kind of think of it as like scar tissue, where it helps build and get strong. It makes you stronger because of that injury, and you learn from it. So having the gratitude of, I go back and I say to myself, I'm so thankful for having that person who broke up with me so long ago and I was so hurt. Or I'm so thankful for this person in my life who has been so challenging, because I would not have learned how to dig deep into myself to present the best part of me.
Mm-hmm. So important. And if you could, towards the end of our conversation, maybe talk about the importance of concentrating on yourself. I feel like this is so important.
So we go to school and we learn academically, but what about the school of life, right? You have to really, really develop yourself. I think it's really important too. We could go through life on a hamster wheel. I'm going to the same job. I see my kids when I get home. I do this, la, la, la. You have the same routine. But then what does all of that mean? And knowing why did I get upset when this happened? Really analyzing your triggers, because those are going to be the key to what you need to learn in life. What are the lessons you need to learn in life? And how can you use those lessons to prevent them from happening again? Because I do believe that when you push away one person that might be difficult or hard to maneuver, and you are able to skirt around it, if you haven't learned the lesson, it's still going to come back to you, but with somebody else. So really don't be afraid and shy of those situations that are difficult, uncomfortable. Really lean into them. I kind of had the analogy of a rope ladder. Like a rope ladder is slack, right? But then when there's tension on it, you can climb the ladder up. So lean into the tension so that you can grow upward.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. And how can people work with you, and how do you support your clients? Yes.
Well, right now I am taking online Reiki patients. I'm also seeing Reiki patients in person. Right now I'm just doing practice sessions. So if you want to be with me and I can practice, that would be fabulous. That's what I'm open to right now.
And I'm
I'm sure
going to include your
my
website.
offerings will expand, but right now that's where I am.
Mm-hmm. Any final messages, any thoughts that you would like to leave the viewers and listeners with?
Be very careful with what you say in your head, and don't have toxic positivity, meaning like saying that everything's okay when it's not. It's okay not to be okay. Recognize your feelings. If you need other tools, get as many tools as you want. Find a psychologist, find a Reiki practitioner, get your best friend, go for a walk, get in touch with yourself and figure out what you need to feed your soul to be able to elevate to a healthy and positive energy. And then really step back and think, is this true, what I'm thinking? And how can I view this another way? Do I have gratitude for this really crummy moment that in my life? In anything, what can I have gratitude for?
Mm-hmm. So important, so beautiful. Well, Megan, thank you so much for coming to the podcast.
Yes, thank you so much. I was really excited to be here. I am, and you have a wonderful podcast, and I'm so happy that I met you.
I'm very happy to have met you as well, and I want to say goodbye to all of the viewers and the listeners. Goodbye.